Our names are Dalton, Dia, and Caroline, and we're going to do a presentation about Neil deGrasse Tyson, the famous astrophysicist. Neil deGrasse Tyson was born and raised in New York City. He grew up in the Bronx, where his parents took him to the New York City Hayden Planetarium for the first time at age 9 to first look at the stars. He talks about this day, saying, "That first day in the Hayden Planetarium, I looked up, the lights dimmed and the stars came out, and I was called by the universe. I had no choice in the matter." That's the day that Tyson decided he wanted to become an astrophysicist. However, his academic record was not on par with those lofty dreams. He says, "I have a whole list of things people told me to become, but nobody saw me as I saw myself. Not teachers, not those who saw me in the streets, no one. Concerning role models, I was an 11-year-old black kid from the Bronx. In my community, no one would ever become anything no one before them had become." Until his middle school teacher noticed his love of books on space and recommended lectures at the Hayden Planetarium, Tyson had very little direction. But at 15, he was able to give his first public lecture on astronomy and started attending the prestigious Bronx High School of Science. Neil deGrasse Tyson got his BA in physics at Harvard in 1980, and in his free time competed on wrestling and rowing teams. He then went to the University of Texas, Austin for his master's in astronomy in 1983. He received his PhD in astrophysics from Columbia in 1991, publishing research on dwarf galaxies, and later wrote his first book, Merlin's Tour of the Universe, which was a collection of answers to the public's questions about space and astronomy. Tyson's accomplishments are numerous, but in this video we'll highlight a few of the ones shown on the screen. In 1996, Neil deGrasse Tyson became director of the Hayden Planetarium, and after the Hayden's renovation in the 2000s, he reopened the planetarium and, in the exhibits on the planets, lumped Pluto with the dwarf planets. This was the first time a prominent scientific figure had done so, and so a reporter for the New York Times wrote about it and started the international debate. In 2006, the members of the International Community of Astrophysicists officially voted to reclassify Pluto as a dwarf planet. In 1996, Neil deGrasse Tyson began to write the Universe column for Natural History. In 2001, he became a member of the Commission on the Future of the United States Aerospace Industry. In 2002, Tyson coined the term Manhattan Hinge for the 2 days of the year where the setting sun would align with the street grid of Manhattan, making the sunset easily viewable and beautiful on clear side streets. In 2004, Tyson served on the President's Commission of Implementation of the United States Space Exploration Policy, titled Mars, Moon, and the Beyond Commission. Also in 2004, Tyson was awarded the NASA Distinguished Public Service Medal and began to host the PBS miniseries Nova, which was ended in 2011. Although Tyson had dreamed of being an astrophysicist from a young age, teachers didn't necessarily believe in him when he was younger because his academics were not on par. His passion is what pushed him towards his goals. Being black in science in our stereotypical society has a lot to say about a black astrophysicist. He ended up attending prestigious universities such as Harvard and Columbia to further his education. Tyson has a lot to say about this subject. And all I can say is, the fact that I wanted to be a scientist, an astrophysicist, was hands down the path of most resistance through the forces of nature, the forces of society. Any time I expressed this interest, teachers would say, "Don't you want to be an athlete?" I wanted to become something that was outside of the paradigms of expectation of the people in power. And I wondered, where is the blood on the tracks that I happened to survive that others did not, simply because the forces of society had prevented at every turn? At every turn. To the point where I have security guards follow me as I go through department stores, presuming that I am a thief. I walked out of a store one time and the alarm went off, and so they came running to me. I walked through the gates at the same time as a white male walked through the gate, and that guy just walked off with the stolen goods, knowing that they would stop me and not him. So, my life experience tells me that when you don't find blacks in sciences and you don't find women in the sciences, I know that these forces are real and I had to survive them in order to get where I am today. So before we start talking about genetic differences, you've got to come up with a system where there's equal opportunity. Then we can have that conversation. Neil deGrasse Tyson is a public figurehead for astronomy and space exploration. His message and impact on science has shared the human endeavor, and he looks at cooperation, discoveries, and exploration, history, modern space exploration, and what is coming next. He inspires children and young adults to advocate for science and society, and is a strong voice on the issues of equality and access for all people of all backgrounds. All should know that Neil deGrasse Tyson popularized science and brought more attention from mainstream audiences, exposing us to scientific findings and ideas, although we do not all belong to the same scientific community. Another quote from Tyson reads, "Only on the frontier of science, physics in particular, have we been able to extend access to the universe, beyond the capability of our senses to do so. The goal is not to make everyone a scientist. What a boring world that would be. What matters is whether they are scientifically literate and maintain that literacy and that curiosity throughout their lives, no matter what becomes their profession."